Warrior Postgame show continues with a 50-21 win in the rearview mirror, and we'll reflect now with the head coach Dennis Miller. And coach, first things first, the offensive arsenal and the weaponry, and we talk about it and you talk about it, but I don't think these fans have ever seen it quite as varied and as diverse as it was here today, simply for the fact that for the first time ever you had 5 different guys score touchdowns for you.
Well, it was very diverse, and I think if we can maintain that and actually build on that, we're going to be challenging to defend, because so often these days defenses are so geared personnel substitutions and personnel defenses that, you know, when they see a Larry Harrell go in, they have this personnel, and when they see Jesse go in, they have this personnel. Well, all of a sudden when you start adding the dynamic of a whole lot of different personnel groupings, I think it does become a challenge as far as how they want to defend us. So I felt very good about that and about the diversity that we used today.
You know, for yet another week, you start with your play scripting with a big pass play, and the third play of the game, the 40-yard touchdown strike to Lapata, second quarter, 54 yards to Fraumeni. Talk about if it was something you saw against what you could do against the Cougars secondary that allowed you big plays, or if it's just the talent of these wideouts that we've talked about, that you feel obligated to take advantage of the speed of these guys, because those big plays are there regardless of what the secondary looks like or regardless of how they scheme you.
You know, I think I really do believe that our thought process is the combination of that. Number one, we put in a pass protection scheme this year that is allowing us to get down the field with a little more security than we have in the past on a couple of different play action type passes. And then with Morris, I know that when Dan and I talked earlier in the week, they tend to bring their safeties down pretty hard when they read pass. And so, you know, it's a wicked combination. If they're bringing their safeties down and we're going over the top, if our protection can hold up, we usually have some success. And then, like you said, Fraumeni and Lapata and those guys, they can run, and so it was just a nice convergence of a bunch of things there.
The offensive backfield, and we've talked about Tucker and his speed, and we know the speed that Jesse Muldrow portrays, but Donovan Tucker kind of really had his breakout game here today. The final numbers on him, if you missed it before, 9 carries, 60 yards, first 2 collegiate touchdowns, and you really saw, I think 1 or maybe 2 plays where he tried to get to the edge. He got to the edge, and at that point, look out.
Yeah, he's got incredible speed. He really does. I mean, there's a lot of college teams talk about their speed, and we're not the only ones, but he has really got some speed. I mean, he was in the state track meet last year for his high school team, and he's a player that can run away from people when they think they've got angles on him, and that happened a couple of times today. So he'll just continue to get better as he learns our offense.
Final thing on the offense before I let Dan talk defense for just a minute. You know, you came into this game telling us in the pregame and Dan earlier this week about you wanted some sustained drives. You wanted to establish that run early, and you certainly capitalized on some big pass plays, but that running attack, that was there, and it really did seem consistent over the better part of 60 minutes today.
Well, and I think, again, we'll know for sure when we watch the film. I mean, that's kind of a coaching cliche, but it really is a fact, because you're just kind of seeing it at regular speed, and sometimes it's hard to know what's happening. But I was really pleased with our sustaining drives, like you said. You know, it's kind of a weird thing. It's great to score fast, you know, 3 or 4 plays and a score. But as coaches, you also know you're going to get into those battles where you're going to need to have 7, 8, 10 play drives to be successful. And so it's nice to see the ability to execute that.
Coach, on the defensive side of the ball, once again, defense, it's what this college has been known for the last couple of years. One of the keys that you gave me this week for a victory today, don't give up any cheap yards on defense, and we were talking specifically about the penalties. 5 penalties in the game. How would you grade that key?
Oh, I think we gave up some cheap yards today. I think first of all, we played great defense, but they had 2 plays that got us, and they were long plays. And if we had those 2 plays back, even though it's a great win, 50-21, it's probably a 50-7, kind of almost a whitewashing kind of game. So, but defense did what the defense does, which is they create turnovers. Very aggressive. Josh McCormick just did a wonderful job on 2 different occasions on the interceptions where where frankly that's his job on that play, is to be right where he was at, and he did it perfectly.
Talk about the confidence of this defense, specifically on the sideline, and what you heard the discussions being when Minnesota Morris was going to their three quarterbacks, running a quarterback carousel, and how much confidence you guys had from a defensive standpoint, knowing that not one of those guys could get it done and they needed all three.
Yeah, there was great confidence on the sideline, and never really, there wasn't concern. I mean, we were aggravated a few times. I mean, when they get some big plays and that sort of thing, it tends to rile you up a little bit, but there wasn't like a concern like, oh man, what are we going to do here, that sort of thing. And I think the other thing that really, again, happened last week and happened again this week is offensively we answered. If we did give up a score, we answered right away. And so it wasn't like, oh boy, what's going to happen now? It was like, okay, we're going to figure this out.
Three games in the books. From what you've seen 2 weeks ago, or what you saw 2 weeks ago at Ripon to now, how would you grade your defense, and what do they need to be specifically good at? One thing, I guess you could say, to win in conference.
Well, first of all, I would grade our offense as, good, better, and best. I mean, I think that we played extremely well against Ripon. I think the problems we had at Ripon were far more offensive problems than defensive problems, as far as we just needed to get the ball into the end zone and so on. But I think we've continued to build from there. I think what happens every year, offense and defense clearly develop a personality. And this defense this year, the personality is just a real pressure defense. I mean, it was just a treat to watch KG and Shem come around the edge today and that sort of thing. I mean, they're coming like howitzers off the side. I mean, if you don't step up, you're in deep trouble. And when you step up, you got Sean and Hetz and all the other guys inside pushing the pocket back. So I think what we will look like as this season rolls along is just a real high pressure defense. And is a pain to play if I had to guess.
Well, here we are at the end of the non-conference season, Coach. For the first time since 2002, you guys carry a winning record into conference play. You're 2-1, and maybe even more importantly, those 2 wins have come now in the last 2 weeks. So you carry a 2-game winning streak into the bye week and into Maranatha in 2 weeks. Big picture here. Dan asked you a specific where's the defense right now? Big picture, offense, defense, special teams, the whole thing. Are you guys ready to hit the ground running at Maranatha in 2 weeks?
Well, I believe we will. I mean, this week we're going to work on some things that we need to clean up. There's a few of those things out there, and we're going to add a couple of wrinkles that we haven't shown yet, and we're going to be ready to throw those out in the Maranatha game. And I do think we'll be ready to get going. It's our only game on grass, so we'll do a little grass practice in the next couple of weeks. We just got to get acclimated to that. We'll be ready to go, and then we're going to have a nice break at the end of the week. We're going to give them Friday off and the weekend off. And, I know how that is. They're going to come back feeling like young colts again because they just have no extra time.
Do you want to play next Saturday? I mean, you're happy with the bye, or would you like to keep this momentum going?
I'm glad we're having a bye. I think we need a bye. We need a couple of guys to get healthy and that sort of thing. But if we were playing next Saturday, I think we'd be highly more. There's no question.
All right, Coach. We'll talk to you in 2 weeks from Watertown.